Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. And today we're going to be talking about my E36 M3 and the process and what I used and what kind of parts I used to basically build this car. Now when I say build this car, I don't mean like the whole thing, like going through suspension, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about like turbo, because lots of people have been asking me what I did, like what turbo I used, what sizing it is, like what kind of manifold, all that kind of stuff. So today in this video, that's what I'm going to be talking about. So first off, I'm going to start with what kind of engine is in the car. So basically this is an inline 6. It is a S52 engine, the US version. It's detuned, or not the upgraded version as other people like to say, of the European model from this car. So that means it basically came into the US having about 240 horsepower, or 220, something like that. So basically that's the engine that's in this car. Now the engine work that I needed to do to this is basically, I think I just took the head off, put the CES Motorsports head gasket, put everything back together with ARP head studs and head bolts, or whatever they're called, and basically just put it back in the car. So after I put the engine back into the car, I decided to run a SPA manifold, which is a bottom mount, which means that the turbo sits underneath the engine, whereas on a top mount, it will sit on top. And the reason why I went to bottom mount is because I really didn't want any of the heat issues, which I don't have because, again, it's a bottom mount and the heat kind of travels through the turbo, hits the turbo, kind of cools it off and pushes the heat away through the rest of the car, like through the back. So the reason why I wanted to do that is obviously heat, and I don't know, just because I wanted this car to be more of a sleeper car. When you pop the hood, like in the Fast and Furious scene where Brian kind of pulls up into the car meet and all you see is like a bunch of stuff, and Dom starts talking about it and they start analyzing it.
See a cool air intake, it's got a nice fogger system and a T4 turbo, Dominic.
Basically what I wanted this to be as simple as possible, and so that you couldn't see basically anything that I did to the car. Granted, when you turbo a car, you're still going to be able to tell that it's turbo, because when it's driving, obviously it sounds different. The massive front intercooler in the front, which you're going to have to look at, because I still have the grille in the front right here, because I wanted to retain the stock look like I said a second before. Interior has gauge pods, so stuff like that kind of give it away, but to a person that doesn't really know what he's looking at, or doesn't even know this platform that well, or turbos, he's not going to know what it is, and he's just going to ask what it is, and you can, BS your way through it if you want. So after the SPA manifold, I connected a Garrett GT3582R turbo to it with a, I think it's a 106 AR housing in the rear, because before that I had a, I believe, 63, which overboosted the car like crazy. I'll talk about the overboost issue as I get into the kind of wastegate and the blow-off valve kind of setup right there. After I put on the GT3582 turbo, I put on a 3-inch stainless steel exhaust all the way through the back with 2 Borla mufflers, just because I, again, wanted to retain the stock, or just a quieter sound, because I didn't want anything loud. So the back end has a 3-inch stainless steel exhaust, and in the front I just put a kind of like this arm looking shape, like a 45-degree angle with a cone intake at the top, and that's pretty much all I did for the intake system. Now going on to the turbo, where it connects to the intercooler, what I ran is the CES Motorsports intercooler piping, which I 100% recommend to any of you turbo guys out there, because they do phenomenal work. And basically, after the piping with CES Motorsports, I also decided to run their CES intercooler, and I don't know these exact specs, but it's 3 inches by 10. I'll have it somewhere up in the screen so you can know for sure. And now believe me when I say that this is a massive intercooler, because I don't think I've seen a bigger one before on at least an E36, and it's plenty enough for the power that I'm making, because 500 wheel is perfectly fine for an intercooler like this. This intercooler I believe is made for 800, and I'm not going to touch that level anytime soon, so I'm definitely proud of what I have over there. Now going from the intercooler to the engine, again, the CES Motorsports intercooler piping, like I said before, and it has a nice stainless steel finish, which just really looks clean, honestly, and that's probably one of the only things that'll really give away that the car is turboed. So I have 2.5-inch piping on the hot side, and on the cold side, I have 3 inches going from the intercooler all the way to the intake, which I'm also running a Beamer World intake boot, with I think it's 2 outings in the bottom of it, where I plugged one, and for the other one I kind of connected to the, I think it's called the CCV, or it's the intake. It's a little like tube that you have to have, and it connects to the manifold. So that part I kind of glued in as well. I put epoxy around it, and I just kind of glued it in there so it doesn't pop off. Now on the intercooler piping, what I have is, I think, a Q50 blow-off valve, which works very well, sounds really nice, has a very aggressive turbo blow-off sound, which I absolutely just love. I can't get over it. Every single time I drive it, it just brings a smile to my face, like it's the first time every time. So And then that's connected to the manifold, which I can upload a picture as well, just to show you where it kind of goes and how to route it. Now onto the wastegate. What I'm running is a 44 millimeter wastegate because the SPA manifold, it has, so SPA manifolds, the wastegate side that they have, the little tubing, you should really always just bore that out to I think 42, 43 millimeters, because otherwise you're going to run into major boost creep issues, and that's exactly what this car was doing. Now a little bit about boost creep. Boost creep is basically when you start hitting boost and the car starts building it, but there's too much going into the system and not enough coming out. So basically that boost, or the pressure, it stays within the engine, and the more pressure you have, the more chances you have of the engine going boom, because there's more air and there's nowhere to go. So where's it going to go? Out the block. So that's the thing that I had to fix on it by boring out the manifold to I think 43 millimeters. So then to the manifold I had connected a, I think TRM. It's a special size for SPA manifolds. I'll again put the size up on the screen because I can't remember these things off the top of my head. I did this about a year ago. That bracket, I welded onto that a 1.75 inch tube which goes down to the wastegate, and the wastegate connects into the exhaust, which is called a reroute. I wanted to do open dump in the beginning, but again, it's just like what other E36 guys want to do when they turbo their car, make it obnoxious, like really loud. And I wasn't really about that because I just like a calm, quiet sounding car, and that's what I was really going for. So I decided to reroute the wastegate into the exhaust just so it's a little bit quieter. Now, believe me when I say it's not quiet, it's still pretty loud. Like, I have people driving next to me, like my car friends, and with their windows open, they still have to shut their ear because, let's face it, it's still a 3-inch exhaust and it's just straight piped with just 2 mufflers on it. And although you might think that it muffles it down a lot, but not really. I'm just going to be honest with you, not really. Turbo guys, if you're going to run the SPA manifold, please make sure that you save yourself the hassle of putting on the 44 millimeter wastegate instead of the 38. If you put the 38 on, you're still going to run into boost creep issues. Even if you bore out the SPA manifold, still going to have boost issues, because I'm telling you, that I think 6 millimeters, it does so much, believe me. I had this car sitting for about I think a month, maybe a month and a half, because I was waiting for the wastegate to come in. Then I was taking off the SPA manifold. Not an easy task to do when the engine is in the car. And after boring it out, putting everything in, welding the tube together, it's still pretty hard. Like, believe me, the boost hit really hard. I can show you a dyno graph right here, and that boost just went phew, just straight up. I'm fairly certain if I wasn't to upgrade to the 44 millimeter, or at least not bore out the SPA manifold, or even run a 1.5 inch pipe instead of 175 to the wastegate for the reroute, this engine would have blown. Easy, I can guarantee it. So after I did all of that, overboosting issue stopped, and the car started running fine. And from there, I just kind of started doing dyno runs, you know, because there's no issues with that. So that's what I started doing. Sure enough, I still ran into another issue. So what I had found was that there was a lot of oil building up in the turbo system inside. When you would pop off one coupler, the whole thing would just be filled with oil. Not too much, but still, oil in the turbo system is not a good thing, especially when it starts dripping from the coupler in the front where the intake system is connected. So to avoid this issue, you need to understand the principle of the oil flow and, you know, stuff like that, of how the turbo basically just works. So you have your turbo, and you have the feed line that goes from the top that feeds the oil, and then you have the drain. The drain goes into the engine, so you have to choose where you want to put that. You can either put that on the block, or you can put it on the oil pan if you're bottom mount. So going into the turbo, the oil is pressurized, but when it goes out, there's no pressure there, and it just kind of has to flow out, like kind of like a creek or whatever, you know, like something like that. So you have all this oil coming into your turbo, but it has nowhere to go again except down. So that's where you want it to go. You just want it to flow out, and that's it. Now when your drain line is on a hook, kind of like a J, which is what I had, because of my previous attempt to put the drain on, I kind of angled the drain down, which caused a J hook on my drain line. The oil would kind of puddle at the bottom, and it just kind of stood there, so it really had nowhere to go, so it started blowing all the smoke through the exhaust pipe and throughout all the seals in the engine, and just wasn't a fun time. You know, let the car sit. I didn't drive it much, you know, like if you don't hit boost really, it's still kind of fine, but not really, because let's face it, you have oil that has nowhere to go. So then I took off the oil pan, I had another one come in, I did the drain at a proper height, and I reclocked the turbo, which I'll show again on the screen. And after I fixed that issue, the oil just went straight down from the turbo into the oil pan. Everything was good again. So after I dynoed the car, I'm making good power, there's no oil in the system, and I have everything that I need for this car that would allow it to run perfectly. And ever since then, it's been pulling pretty hard, it drives fine, And at that point, the issues weren't with the turbo anymore. Now you have to take into consideration that this is a 25-year-old car. Well, mine's 24, but it's the same idea. It's an E36, it's old, and it's not made for this kind of power because, let's face it, like I said in the beginning, it was made for 220, 240 horsepower, maybe even 320 if you want, like with the European E36s, but not 500. So what started happening is my differentials started going out. I think I went through 2 differentials already. I'm on my 3rd one because I don't drive slow. I like to buck it. Like, even slides, I like to slide anywhere I can and kind of clutch kicking it everywhere I can, which that broke a diff bolt, and then it broke a diff, then it broke another diff, and now I'm on my 3rd one. So now what I'm going to be doing is building my differential just so that it can take that power. I'm going to be putting in built axles and a built drive shaft. So this is kind of on the back burner, and I'm going to let it sit, and I'm going to resume to my blue E36, which I believe this channel hasn't seen in about 3 or 4 months already. Don't worry, that thing is still alive. If you're a subscriber from back then, that thing is definitely coming back because I still have a lot of things to do to that thing, and there's actually a clutch job that I'm going to be doing on it in a future video. Now at this point, I can't even remember what else to say because I think I pretty much named everything. Oh, okay, so one last thing. I am running a Turbo eSmart boost controller because I want to turn the power down every now and then because this is, again, a daily driver, and when you turn the power down, it allows me to drive at 370 wheel, which is my low setting. I am running a stock ECU. I went to CS Motorsports, like I mentioned in the video, and I had Nick G do my tune, which is phenomenal. Like, that guy, he knows what he's doing. Let's just put it at that, because the tune is spot on, everything is perfect, it runs perfect, and the tuning hasn't had any issues whatsoever, and I'm very proud of that. And at the end of the day, I spent a little bit more money than what I anticipated I would spend on it because I did try to go the cheap route, the easier route, like, you know, as some of us like to do, because I am a college student and I don't have that much money, so I had to go that route. And just let me tell you from experience, you're really going to want to go the expensive route. Now, I don't mean like cashing out on all the turbos, cashing out on like all this piping, going to shops and stuff like that. I mean, just don't buy cheap parts. Buy quality, because the parts that you buy cheap or used is fine if they've been, you know, like run on a reliable source that you've had before or something like that. But if you're buying used stuff where it's kind of sketchy or doesn't seem right to you, just don't buy it, because trust me, it's going to fail, it's going to break, it's not going to work, or you're going to end up switching it in the near future. I would have saved myself, I think, about $3,000 if I didn't go the cheap route on some parts that I tried to buy. Because a few kinks that this car had, like, honestly my fault, because I should have known better, and I should have just used my head and just bought parts new. Because now all the parts that I have are new, and the parts that I bought before, they're in the trash can, and that's just money wasted. So stuff that I bought new, all in the car. Basically, this whole thing is new. Like, all the parts that are in there are new, and I wish I could just go back and just tell myself, yo, you don't want to do that. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I know there's been a lot of people asking for this video, basically demanding it, and I hope this helps you. And if you have any more other questions on the technical side or on parts or sizes, I have all my receipts. I have all that information. Everything's been written down. I've taken pictures of most of the things that I can remember, and all of the general knowledge is just basically in my head. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. My Instagram is right here. And again, if you have any questions, just ask. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Thanks for tuning in. Click the subscribe button if you haven't, and click the like button as well, because it really helps me. And, you know, just tell me something in the comment section down below, because that really helps me, and it really helps me know what kind of videos to put out, and it puts the videos on like the YouTube main page where other people can see it and enjoy it, or just learn a few new things about the car if they need to. And on that note, I'll catch you guys in the next one.